Thank you very much for joining. So this is Thailand. I'm Valerie McKenzie. Sawadee ka.
I'm Johan Wimonchalau. Swadee krap.
And I'm Tapani Manawe. Sawadee ka.
Another month. Where have the months gone? We're already only about 6 weeks out or 7 weeks out from the new year, from Christmas. So where's the year gone? What have we achieved this year?
Oh.
Personally or as
No, we're talking Thailand. We're talking
Hopefully
Thailand.
more than the previous year and less than next year. If that makes any sense.
If we can follow that up. I mean, I think there's so many things been happening this year, but it would be nice very shortly to actually get what's happened in terms of the benefits to the country, the exports, the rice, all those things that we've been talking about, to actually get a summary of all those. We'll try to do that for you to bring you an update. But it's been a year of ups and downs, I guess, for Thailand, and we've still, after the stories we gave you yesterday, there's still some little gremlins in the cupboard that we need to actually address. Want to add to that, or?
Yeah, well, you'll notice that, on the show we do have recurring themes, recurring stories, and that's because they just won't go away.
Yeah, 3G.
3G number one, yeah, that's always up there.
Futsal number two.
Futsal number two, and today we bring you the proposed charter amendment. Now, we thought this one had actually died, and that the Pheu Thai party had actually decided to, you know what, we'll just shelve that for a while since it's such a contentious subject. Well, a new charter change report is due out on November 20th to submit to point out the areas of the Constitution which should be changed. Now, this is kind of like a report about what should be done. So it's a little less contentious, I should think. They're looking for bipartisan support on this, which should happen in a democracy as well. And looking at it, any constitution, obviously, you'd want to have a document which is fair. It's binding to everyone in that, looking towards the future, it doesn't get changed. But looking at how many times, here's an interesting thing. We're looking back on the year. Let's look back in the last 5 or 10 years. How many times has this Constitution been changed, amended, argued about? And
never accepted completely by all. And I guess going into the future, it will not be accepted by all again. But it's an ongoing issue. And what are the benefits out of it? I guess that what we'd like to know is, okay, we're going to change this section of the Constitution and this section of the Constitution. What, in fact, are we going to be able to get the benefits for the country, the benefits for the people? We never get that, and I think that, as I've said before on another program, I think that we really need to have the government communicating better with us, or those people that are pushing forward for these particular charters or various changes to agreements, and let's know what's going on. We may be able to then contribute and not criticise.
Well, as one political analyst has said, every time there is a change in power, the Constitution gets changed again, which is something that only happens kind of exclusively in Thailand.
It's a bit like the lottery, isn't it?
Yeah, when there's a change of government, everything changes, like all the major projects that have been in place before gets halted. But it's kind of like different groups trying to use the Constitution as a solidifying base for power, which is not supposed to happen, really. Doesn't happen that way in the States.
Let's hope that we can move forward from this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, otherwise it will just keep coming back. Well, speaking of those things that keep coming back, the problems of politics will never go away, and the opposition Democrat Party have announced that they will open more political schools as a pilot project around the Bangkok area. 3 schools have been set to open in Sathorn area, in Bang Khaw Lam, and also in Yanawa district. And they will act as schools that help to fight against taxonomics and also introduce the principles of political and democracy. And also another thing is to avoid the word democracy being used for political gain. How about that?
Well, I guess that says it all, really. There's nothing to say.
Well, looking at it, I don't think you actually need to open up a separate school to teach about politics. In fact, if you had a properly educated population to begin with, they could make their own informed choices. And that's part of the problem here, and where we see so much division in the country, especially if you look at the socio-economic divisions here. It's a reason why we have so much political strife, because you have people who don't understand what the policies, what the procedures are, and they're getting taken advantage of. And then you have the people who are saying, "Oh, don't you know you're taking advantage of these people?" And it just
amazes me that there's so many things to be done in this country. There's so many things that both the government and the opposition should be doing to actually focus on something like this seems to me, I'm sorry to say, to be a nonsense, at this point in time, because we have so many issues. Our exports are down. We're concerned about a number of issues that we've spoken about over the last few days. So, what's wrong with political science, going to the universities and learning there? I mean, who is actually going to go to these schools to learn?
Don't know. Well, the argument is that the opposition, the Democrats' opposition, have the red shirts, red TV, red villages. So I guess it's their way of building their own base.
My goodness. If you've got TV and you've got radio, that's millions of people. If you've got a school, what do you get, 30 at a time, 40 at a time?
And if they're opening them up here in Bangkok, that's where your base is to begin with.
As a Democrat,
you're
you should
preaching
be in the
to the
country.
choir,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well.
Maybe they need some good advice from you as a business and strategy manager.
Yeah,
Johan.
exactly.
Get in there and tell them.
Exactly, exactly.
On to happier news, maybe?
Yes.
Well, there is a new project in town, and it's very, very exciting, actually. This is one of the things that keep coming back as well. Maybe that's the theme of today. But you may be familiar, if you're in Bangkok, of some downtown bike rental schemes that have been going on, and it's been dusted off and then shelved for a while. And now the Bangkok Metropolitan Administration is bringing it back. The bikes will be available for rental near Chula area, near the subways, and the second branch that is going to collect them back will be at the Bangkok Bank on Siam area as well. So you can rent the bikes there and then return them at another place. So far, 8 bikes are in play at the 2 stations. So I guess that makes it a total of 16 bikes, or maybe 8 between the 2. We don't know.
It looks as though this is going to be a really, really popular event for everybody
If
to go
it's
and
popular,
cycle.
they're in trouble.
But you know what? Are there any cycling lanes? I don't think there are any cycling lanes along that area.
There are cycling lanes. I've seen quite
Near the
a
Chula?
lot. Well, all around town and in that area as well. The problem is people drive in them and people park in them, even worse. But if this works out, they are going to get 500 bikes across 50 stations around Bangkok. So,
well, if you remember some, not too far in the past, they've actually made bike lanes
Yes,
that were
they did.
occupied part of the pedestrian sidewalk. Unfortunately, you have all the street vendors who blocked it.
And it's very dangerous for pedestrians because
Exactly.
you can't always hear the bikes coming. They're quiet.
Exactly. But anyway, somebody's trying to give it another go with 8 bikes. I have to ask the question, are you really serious?
Well, there is a kind of comprehensive fee. They have a membership fee, so you register for 320 baht. And then you are covered with 50,000 baht medical insurance package, which you may need cycling in Bangkok.
So what we're really saying to you is if you want to go on this bike excursion, book early to avoid disappointment.
Yes.
And coming up, of course, very, very soon, next week in fact, are the US elections. Now, what is the impact on Thailand? I'm sure there would be many depending on who actually gets into power. What's your call on the US elections at this stage?
Well,
Johan?
as an expat living here, we're kind of, I guess, insulated. We can kind of say, well, we can run away. If we don't like who gets elected in there, we can always say, oh, I'm just going to spend another 4 years in Thailand. But if you do look at their foreign policy, especially about what their policy is towards Southeast Asia, a lot of focus from the Obama administration being put on Myanmar in development and getting in early there. You're looking at 2 political parties with they claim to have very different ideologies. But if you look a lot of their policies, whether it's Republican or Democrat, once they get into office, it's a lot of the same stuff.
A continuation of the same, yeah.
I mean, if you can look at it as almost the same as in here in Thailand. Obviously, it's a little different political structure, but you still have the same people trying to help out their friends, trying to remain in power.
Same there, same in the US.
Same in the U.S., maybe a little less blatant.
But it's still happening.
But if you look at, coming from my own part, I've watched a few of the debates, lively debates this year, and you're looking at the critics on both sides saying, oh, the president came out this way, the governor came out that way. But if you look at their responses, a lot of them, they really haven't nailed down what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. They spend a lot of the time pointing to the other guy and saying what he's not going to do.
Sure. But if you talk about Mitt Romney, I mean, what are you going to do about foreign policy? I mean, he still doesn't give a clear answer about what can happen in the Middle East. What is going to be his position? That is absolutely critical to the stability of the world and the impact of if, in fact, we go to another war. What will that be? Then we have Iran and Israel at war too. So I was a little upset with the foreign policy debate, I have to say, because I felt that it was inconclusive, and I thought it left us wide open to, you know, we need to know. I mean, if your foreign policy is let's go in and let's get them all out of there, it ain't going to work. You know, it hasn't worked with Afghanistan, it hasn't worked with Iraq, and look at the mess that we've left there anyway.
Well, I think he's inexperienced. I mean, he's
good businessman. Yeah.
He's a governor of a state, so he knows about the domestic policies, but he's got no experience internationally. And so, rather than talk about a subject where he could probably get called on things which he doesn't understand or doesn't know, he's probably trying to play it safe and you know, pan to the home public there, and you know, try to show that I'm trying to bolster at least our economy.
Right, I thought so. It's kind of like you don't want to commit to too much and leave yourself open to attack. And anyway, actually, I guess the president doesn't need to know everything, but it's more like being a good manager, isn't it? And knowing who to get to be your advisor and to give you the appropriate advice.
And at the end of the day, I think you're right. I think that the local people are going to vote on local issues, not on, you know, the interaction or the problems that have been in the rest of the world. The only thing is that with Obama, he indicates that we're going to go along with the similar policies, we're going to keep it tight, we're going to move forward. Whereas Mitt Romney's saying, look, we'll just, you know, we don't have to plan this at the moment, we're going to do something in 5 years' time. I don't know that, you know, with the debts that the US has, that we can wait 5 years. You know, I just don't think that's possible. Who's going to overpay the debts?
Oh, we'll just borrow more money from China.
Are Americans talking to Chinese? Oh.
China's owned some of the most debt of, you know, owns some of the most of the U.S. debt there. So,
yeah. Well, keep your money rolling in China. Just recently, I had the opportunity to talk to a gentleman, a company called Super Rich, and this gentleman, in fact, does money exchange. Very interesting story, because he'll also come to your home. He'll also, if you're at a hospital and you need to get some money, he'll exchange the money at the hospital. He says he's got a better rate too. It's a second generation family, and named Super Rich, what more can you expect? We'll take a break and we'll be back with another way you can exchange your money in Thailand.